Welcome everyone to our first deep dive series. Today we're exploring plastic justice, the intersection of ocean protection, human rights, and social equity within the plastics context. Plastics are everywhere, polluted in the environment, and ubiquitous within our built societies. However, the full life cycle of plastics disproportionately harms the ocean and marginalized communities. Plastics equal environmental and social injustice. That is why an intersectional approach to not only understanding how these externalities are interconnected, but how equitable solutions can be identified to protect people and the environment is key. Ocean justice is a lens through which we can view the plastics crisis and analyze how these interconnections between protecting the ocean, fulfilling human rights, and progressing social equity occurs.
Every stage of the plastic life cycle impacts the ocean. Plastics are fossil fuels, and this extractive industry increases global emissions and contributes to accelerating climate change, impacting the ocean. In addition, the production of plastics releases harmful chemicals into the environment, including catastrophic spills of nodules, small, lightweight plastic pellets. During the next phase, when plastics are then used, we see the deadliest form of plastic pollution: abandoned, lost, or otherwise discarded fishing gear that entangles and causes the death of marine life. Finally, using plastics, especially single-use, leads to its inevitable end. With less than 10% of global plastics being recycled, approximately 8 to 10 million metric tons of plastics enter the ocean every year, harming marine life through its toxicity, transfer of invasive species or chemicals, consumption, entanglement, and breakdown into microplastics.
In 2022, the United Nations General Assembly recognized the human right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment for all. As plastics are inherently a human rights issue, governance from local to international levels must ensure these rights are protected. For instance, microplastics and nanoplastics are present in our air, water, soil, bodies, and food, particularly seafood. The production and consumption of plastics have reached insurmountable levels that threaten the health of the environment, people, and planetary boundaries. According to data between 1950 and 2019, the production of plastic has increased by 22,887%. Right now, the UN Global Plastics Treaty, under negotiation by the International Negotiating Committee, INC, does not include a single mention of human rights. We looked at statements by countries to the INC and found that countries experiencing the brunt of plastic pollution and human rights injustices, particularly those in the Global South, demonstrated the most explicit support for human rights in the treaty.
One concept that is key to human rights and justice is plastic literacy. The need to increase awareness and education regarding the risks of plastics to human and environmental health. Central to advancing plastic literacy is increasing transparency, ensuring that producers are straightforward with the chemical additives and potential harms of their products. For example, an estimated 13,000 different chemicals are associated with plastics, and of these, 25% are known to be hazardous to human health. In fact, only half of these chemicals have even been tested and screened for their hazardous properties. Individuals, regulators, communities are purposely kept in the dark, and the consequences are severe. Plastics often contain carcinogens and other chemicals like mercury and phthalates. These chemicals have been correlated with numerous health impacts. Plastic literacy and transparency go beyond knowing the potential harms to your own body, but also include recognizing the disproportionate and inequitable impacts experienced by marginalized communities.
Though everyone is impacted by plastics, the experiences between identities are not the same. Levels of privilege and social power constructs of race, class, and gender intersect to make certain groups of people much more vulnerable to the harms of the plastic life cycle. Still, the issue of plastics is often framed as purely a pollution issue. While plastic pollution is certainly a crisis in of itself, we must view all the impacts along the plastic life cycle, starting with fossil fuels, how the rights of indigenous peoples are infringed upon by oil drilling, to the end of the life cycle, how incineration industries are disproportionately placed within low-income or BIPOC communities. small island developing states and the global south are being suffocated by plastic waste that they are not responsible for, whether by ocean currents or the direct exportation of waste from the global north to low GDP countries, a phenomenon entitled waste colonialism. Youth are at high risk from exposure to the harmful chemicals in plastics. Women and people who menstruate are exposed to microplastics and harmful chemical additives from period products. Women also represent a large portion of the global share of informal waste pickers whose livelihoods depend upon collecting plastics. The plastic industry workers themselves and the frontline communities that surround these facilities are burdened with exposure. The entire plastic life cycle is a justice issue. And according to UNEP, plastics are a barrier to every sustainable development goal. Plastics are a climate, ocean health, human rights, and justice issue. If you want to learn more, check out our report, Advancing Ocean Justice in the Global Plastics Treaty. Also keep on the lookout for our next deep dive on how the treaty negotiations occurring again next month at INC4 can tangibly protect the ocean and human communities.